Forgiveness is freedom. Forgiveness is communicating your pain, letting your pain be known, but also growing from your pain and not having your pain to control you for so many years. I know that you know people who have probably allowed themselves to hold grudges against people who've done them wrong, or things that people have done to them. But forgiveness is freedom. It is relieving ourselves from the pain that it causes us, because it makes us sick. It makes us have all this baggage in our lives. And it is saying you can be free from this baggage. God wants us to be free from that baggage.
For the ones who've been stuck in the mud, searching for hope. Trust me, I know what it feel like to drown in my problems, but God came and threw me the rope.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Life With podcast and show, the place where we're helping Christians to get over the hump, get unstuck, and move from stagnant places in their life and faith so that you can begin growing in your life and in your faith. I'm Donovan, Archie, Christian life motivator and coach, husband, pastor, and dad. Be praying for me. My job here today, though, is to help give you strength for today and hope for tomorrow. Look, I am so glad that you showed up today, because today we're talking about forgiveness. And look, before you give me that look, before you make that face, I know that forgiveness is hard. I know that forgiveness is a hard thing to do. I know that it's a hard thing to talk about. I even know that it's an intimidating thing to us sometimes, out of fear of what it may do to us and what it may do in us. But it is for that exact reason today that I want to talk about it, because I believe that forgiveness has a lot to teach us about how to operate in this world. Look, forgiveness is hard. And I think it's hard because a lot of times it is misunderstood. There's a bad misconception about forgiveness. A lot of times there's this idea that forgiveness is making nice with people, that it is, saying to people that what happened to them or what happened to me is okay. It's about moving into full trust again. It is about, letting things go and, remembering it all the time and holding people to it. People may even say that, look, it's about reconciliation, or it's even about pretending that something didn't happen to you. And I gotta tell you, as sorry as all of that stuff, as good as those things sound, that's absolutely not the case. It can't be the case, because I believe that forgiveness has a deeper meaning. I think it has a deeper responsibility, especially as Christians who are forgiven ourselves. Forgiveness is this idea. It is this thing where we enter into this space where our hearts are open to being changed in light of our pain and in light of our offense. A lot of times when people offend us, we experience pain, we experience anger, we experience resentment, we want to seek revenge on people, and that is absolutely natural to our human condition. When somebody does something to you, you want them to feel the pain of what you felt. You want them to almost even receive some sort of like little punishment for what they've done to you. And whether you let that be known through not talking to them anymore, cutting them off, or, treating them, differently, or even, not going, near different people or near different things. That is absolutely our nature. We decide to do that when people make offenses against us, or when we're offended by something. But when the time comes to forgive people, it's a moment where we decide in our lives that I cannot be controlled by this pain and this anger and this revenge that I feel. Our feelings are true, they are real, and they are authentic. They happen to us, rightfully so. But we can't let those things control us. We have to believe, and we have to know and understand that God does not want us to be controlled by our emotions and our feelings and our pain. God doesn't want us to be controlled by our bad habits. God doesn't want us to be controlled by anything that is not the spirit that comes from himself. God invites us to a different space, especially when it comes to forgiveness. It's a space that has our heart open to what God wants to do in us. That is the first step to forgiveness, is knowing that forgiveness is a process, and that process first starts with having our heart and our mind open to what God wants to do in us. Because there's so much that God wants to show us about hurt people. I know that you've heard this saying before, that hurt people hurt people. And that could not be more true. They could not be more true. There are experiences that people have. There's a lack of knowledge that people have. Sometimes we know more about love or compassion than other people. And sometimes people trespass us in ways or do things in our lives that is far away from the knowledge that we have about love or compassion. And we get offended by it. And we get offended when people don't have the same level of love or compassion that we do, or understand it or respect. But we can't hold people to that. We're invited in forgiveness to see people differently, to know that sometimes people have not made it to places where we have grown, that people have not matured into their full selves, and that there are places and experiences and things that have happened to people. There are places where they have been that has created this person, that have created this circumstance, that have allowed people to treat you in this way, or have allowed for people to offend you in that way. Everybody sometimes is not always out for us. They're not always out to do harm against us, but harm does happen to us. But we can't be controlled by the pain of harm or the experience of harm, because Christ invites us to be set free from that hold that harm has on us, that pain and that those emotions have on us. So that's kind of the first step, is being open to what God wants to do in our life. The second thing is restoration and transformation. I know in this show I talk about restoration and transformation a lot, but those things could not be more true of forgiveness. We're invited to not only see people differently, but we're invited to change ourselves. That there are things that God may want to show us with ourselves and in ourselves, to not only not be controlled by things, but to grow deeper with God through the pain, through the anger, through the resentment, and to understand those things on a much deeper level. We get stuck when we don't forgive. We get stuck when we don't allow restoration and transformation to happen in us. We get stuck when we don't let ourselves, our hearts, our mind, and our spirit be open to what God wants to do in us, to show us how people are hurt themselves, how people are dealing with different things themselves. We become different people when we open ourselves to renewal and transformation. We become different people when we open ourselves to the process of growth. Look, I know that forgiveness is hard. Forgiveness is hard because there is this known need in the seat of forgiveness. I want to explain that a little bit. When something happens to us, let's say that somebody has offended you in some way. We automatically, at the moment of that offense, need something from that person, whether it's an apology, whether it is an acknowledgement of what they've done to us, whether that's a debt that's paid, I need you to pay me back, or you owe me something. We automatically end up in this position where we feel like that person owes us something. But I got to ask this question. What happens if you never get what you need from that person? What happens when that debt is never paid? What happens when that person never acknowledges you or never offer you the apology or give you something in return? What happens? Well, as Christians, we're invited by God, by Christ, to move to the process of forgiveness. There's a program that's out. It's called debt forgiveness for student loans. And if that doesn't excite you, I know that it definitely excites me. But there's this program that's designed to help forgive student loans. There's students who have gone to college and who have racked up all this debt trying to accomplish something. And they've contacted these people and said, I need you to give me all this money. And because I need this to pay for something, they've accrued all this debt and now they owe all this money. But there are these programs that are designed to forgive people's debt. Some people have hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And I think these programs are beautiful because I think that it theologically displays God's love. Now, I know that the people in the forgiveness office is not God. They may even feel like God because they're forgiving all this money, that we use. But it's similar to that forgiveness is, entering into this relationship where we realize that sometimes the debt that we have, or the debt that people owe us, can be forgiven. It's leaning into that full experience. If your debt was forgiven, if somebody paid off your student loans, you would feel extraordinarily relieved because they have paid a debt that will take you either a long time to pay, or they are fulfilling an obligation that that you absolutely cannot fulfill. They're almost taking the pressure off of you. Now, what they may say is you deserve to pay this back, or you deserve to be sent to prison because you can't pay this debt back. But sometimes what these people say is, you know what? I realize that that you're trying to do good in the world. I know that teachers do this often. If you go and teach and if you go and do this in the world, if you go and do this, then your loans and all your debt can be forgiven. God shows us that with God's love and invites us to have that same type of forgiveness, to number one, experience forgiveness, but also show that same type of forgiveness to other people. But first, have ourselves open to personal transformation, to have our hearts change to what God wants us to do, as far as seeing people differently, to seeing people as hurt and flawed people in the world, to seeing people as human. We're all the human condition. We all have pain. We all suffer. We all go through things. God wants us to see each other just like that, so that we can say, you deserve forgiveness. You don't deserve the pain and the anger that's due to you. You deserve to know what it's like to fully be loved regardless of what you've done. I love that. For Christians, our process is about transformation and renewal. And that's inward transformation and renewal. God wants so badly to work on our heart, to get all the anger and pain out of our heart so that it does not control us. And I love what God says to his prophet Ezekiel. This is in Ezekiel 36. And God's prophet is getting ready to talk to God's people, the Israelites, a people who've been unfaithful to God for a very long time. And God is telling them, look, I want, not only do I want to be back in a relationship with you, but I want to forgive you for the hurt and the pain that you have ensued upon me by not, allowing me to be your God, by, bowing down to other idols. God shows this incredible sense of forgiveness and invites for us to do the same thing. I want to read it to you. It's Ezekiel 36, and it says this: "For I will take you out of the nations. I will gather you from all the countries and bring you back into your own land. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all of your impurities and from you all of your idols. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will put my spirit in you and move in you and allow my decrees to be in you so that you keep my laws." The last part of that says, then you will live in the land that I gave your ancestors, and you will be my people, and I will be your God. God desires to renew us, but first recognizing that God forgives us for the things that we do. God desires to transform our hearts, but first by recognizing that we have distanced ourselves from God, that we've done things to God that has created space between God and ourselves. And God wants to restore that. God wants to restore us in the process. And so that is forgiveness. Forgiveness is about restoration, but it is also about receiving a new heart so that we can see people differently and respond and treat people differently. So here's some things to remember about forgiveness. Number one, forgiveness is a process. Remember that forgiveness can start at any time, and forgiveness will not happen overnight. Transformation does not happen overnight. So you won't forgive things overnight, and you won't forgive people overnight. The second thing is that forgiveness is freedom. Forgiveness is communicating your pain, letting your pain be known, but also growing from your pain and not having your pain to control you for so many years. I know that you know people who have probably allowed themselves to hold grudges against people who've done them wrong, or things that people have done to them. But forgiveness is freedom. It is relieving ourselves from the pain that it causes us, because it makes us sick. It makes us have all this baggage in our lives, and it is saying you can be free from this baggage. God wants us to be free from that baggage. So it is being free from that baggage. It is also seeing people differently, knowing that just like how there are many possibilities in us to grow and to mature, that people have room to grow and mature too. And that when we show people forgiveness, we open people up to them changing as well, the possibilities. And then lastly, forgiveness makes room for personal transformation. It opens us up to all of what God can do in us. Open us up to all of the love that God wants to show us and all the love that God wants us to show people. So I believe that God wants you to experience this forgiveness because you are forgiven, and forgiven people can forgive other people. Bottom line. I've had fun with you today, Life with Fam, and I'm so glad that you sat with me here today and learned about forgiveness because it's super important to our life and it is extraordinarily important to our faith. I pray that whatever it is in your life that you're struggling with, or whoever the person is in your life that you are struggling to forgive, that you open yourself up to God showing you to see people differently, that you open yourself up to transformation and renewal, and you open yourself up to total freedom from the control of your emotions and your pain so that you can begin to live your life lighter. Remember, God said to take upon my yoke, for my yoke is lighter. Take upon Christ's yoke, for it is lighter, and you can do life differently. You can do life lighter, and that's a free life. Look, remember, you only get one life, and that's life, new life with Christ. Remember that. I want to see you back here next week as we're talking about a brand new topic here on the Life With Show. You're going to like next week's show, so make sure that you like, subscribe to my content. Make sure that you hit the bell notifications to make sure that you are receiving every time we go live and every time new videos are dropped. Also, download us on all major podcasting platforms. We're there. Make sure you share this message so that people's lives can be transformed as we are seeking to do life with each other. Look, I love you, Life with Fam. Remember, you only get one life, and that's new life with Christ. I love you. Take care, and I will see you next week.